enemy combatant of the United States of the New Globe. I will not read you your rights. You don't have any rights. You will be detained indefinitely. Say goodbye to life as you know it. Say goodbye to life as you know it.
And welcome to Waking Up the Masses right here on TruthFrequencyRadio.com. I am your host, Robert Bruce, joined by my good friend, Mr. John LeBang. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm here having a great old time, being alive, being happy. But there's an interesting thing going on, my friend.
What's
So
that?
we got Jade Helm going on. You know that, right?
Interesting.
So-
Go ahead. There was something on this I was going to bring up today, but go ahead.
U.S. Airspace Command moving communications back to the Cold World bunker. Isn't that an interesting development?
I saw that. I saw that. Isn't it interesting also they're going to be operating in the Midwest and the Southwest and right there. Well, basically the Southwest. Right there next to where the water problem's going on.
Right?
Hey, let's incorporate this. It's not like they haven't incorporated their federal level programs before at the local level. Let's incorporate this. This is what we have to do for global warming. You know, global warming gave Obama's daughter asthma. Did you see that? The little hand emotional thing, everybody likes to get attached to. Global warming has given, Malia? She's got asthma because of global warming.
Oh, I feel terrible for her.
Yeah. Maybe
terrible.
it's smoking too many cigarettes around your daughter or something when she was young. Before you got in the public eye, who knows,
Maybe
man?
she smokes cigarettes. You never know.
Maybe she does.
How old is she?
I don't
She's
know.
a teenager, right? I believe.
I have no idea, man. That's one thing I don't do is keep up with these guys' personal lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's just like, but there's plenty of people out there that know. You're like, oh, yes, he did this, he did. I mean, I know about his political aspirations, his connections, so forth and so on, but there are plenty of people out there that get involved in this the same way they do with the Kardashians and so forth and so on, the whole reality TV thing.
The whole pop culture
Yes.
world just baffles me. I don't know how
indeed.
anybody gets into it. You know, Cheney also says that Obama wants to take down America.
Cheney
Darth
was...
Vader himself.
Oh, my gosh. See, the dialectic, man. The dialectic there. One tyrant tells the other one. Well, really, one puppet tells the other one.
Right.
I could see Cheney being near the top of the pyramid, though. Sitting there like, eat them. Let's eat them all. He's
He's a strange guy.
they're all strange guys. They're all strange guys and gals. Welcome to Waking Up the Masses, guys, right here on TruthFrequencyRadio.com. Oh, it's a crazy world we live in. Truly a crazy world, man. UFOs. Once again, we have this whole alien thing going on in the mainstream news. In the mainstream news, where was it? Let me see here with my mainstream news links. I think it's you got to look at as much as you want to avoid it, you got to look at the mainstream news.
Oh, you have to. If for any other reason, just to have a good old time with it.
Not for truth, of course.
No.
Not for truth, of course. But we got to look at this.
I'll say this: they give you a certain percentage of truth, and then they just fill it with their little propaganda, and that way
Yes.
you get directed into where they want you to go.
Yes. Have you seen? This is one that really bothers me. Speaking about propaganda and how they influence people and bring people into the fold. Have you seen the? What is it? It's this. You see people put up posts and they go, "This person did this or this animal did this." You'll never believe what happened next, John. You've seen those. It's like I'm not clicking on that. I am not clicking on that. You're as bad as the local news reporters that go, and it's like right after the 6 o'clock news. Maybe it's like 7 o'clock or something. They go, this person did this, and they started their hair caught on fire. More news at 11:30. It's like, you see, they string you along. This goes back. This goes back to the ancient mysteries. When Aristotle was describing the Eleusinian mysteries, he said, they kept people in an outer chamber. They would keep them in an outer chamber for a while, so that it build up a this nervous energy. You got what's going to happen next. We're having to wait here. Wait in the you're in the principal's office. You're having to wait to go in. See, they know how to influence men. That's why Aristotle, he said it's not necessarily that they learned anything or got some boon of knowledge, but it was a certain feeling and emotion they got from these mysteries. And that's it. That's what people like to tie themselves into in this day and time. That emotion, oh gosh, Obama's daughter's got asthma. The king's daughter has asthma because of global warming.
Nobody else had asthma before her.
No.
Right?
Let's talk. Let's look at this. How many people have poisoned their bodies with these genetically modified foods because her father, the president, has sat there and said, "Okay, yeah, that genetically modified salmon, we're all on board for that." Monsanto, the genetically modified lobby, food lobby. They always have a place in every administration. It's sort of like the security spying lobby. They always have a place in every administration. It's like, yeah, we didn't like that previous guy. We're different. But that Patriot Act, yep, still good. Still going. The Patriot Act is the Energizer Bunny, man. It's going and going and going. That's a Cheney, too. He's the Energizer Bunny.
He is. He never gets older, does he? He's been this perpetual 70-year-old man for 30 years.
Yes. Right? No, you're extremely right, man. Look at this guy. It's like, do you age? So we can put him back together again. We can put him back together again. Put some more technology. Hey, that whole working on people putting machines in their body, transhumanism. I guarantee you, he's had a few experiments done on him.
Maybe that's true.
It's like, keep him going, man. Keep him going. We don't care if there's nothing left but the brain. Keep him going. But Obama, in all honesty, man, this guy's just another puppet. He's just another puppet. Back in the 1700s, they liked to use the dumbed down / intelligentsia as their dupes. And perhaps, in this day and time, they still use the dumbed down intelligentsia as their dupes, but they let them get in office. It's like, just let them screw everything up. Just let them mess it up. It'll be okay. It'll be okay.
Is it possible that Obama is a puppet for a different group, and that's why we've seen the shift in our alliances?
Obama, contrary to when people say communism and socialism, Obama's a fascist.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Obama's a fascist. Look at everything he's done. Look at everything. If he was a socialist, he would have already seized. He would have pulled a Hugo Chavez. He would have pulled a Hugo Chavez. He would have already seized assets on a big scale. It would be government. Everything would be government. He's a fascist, man. He's a fascist. Just to use that word, with what shall we say? Who was it? Mussolini. Mussolini, it's sort of like the Nazi word with Hitler, Mussolini, with the whole word fascist. If you look at the root, the root of this, it's the fasci. The fasci, the twigs or the sticks that are bound by the vine, or sometimes it looks like a barbed wire, different things. Mm-hmm. But it basically speaks to every aspect of your life. And that government is the intertwining thing holding it all together. But it wasn't considered a bad... Why do we have two fasci up in D.C.? Did you know that?
What was that? We have a what up there?
The symbol, fasci. If you look up in Congress, you will see on both sides a fasci.
I've not
Check
seen
it out.
Any pictures on that.
Check it out. Look up there. It's sort of like they keep that little seal turned around up in Congress that just shows us the birth side of the Great Seal.
The more we learn, the more we know we don't know anything. Do you ever feel that way?
Constantly.
The more I learn, I'm like, I don't know anything.
Delving into the mysteries is constantly like that, man. You just go on and on. And a little side note, apology once again, guys. I am, Mr. LeBang. I have realized that it's a double whammy this year. I've actually gotten some kind of croup. I've gotten some kind of cough and congestion type thing, along with the sinus thing. Along with the sinus,
and it's not a Yui croup, right?
No. It's
only the hockey fans will know what.
I know. There you're with your hockey, your little secret society hockey stuff. What I tell you
I
about
don't have
that?
that big of a
You're like
society.
you're the
We're
Weissop.
6 guys that actually like it.
Yeah, that's what Weissop said too.
we don't go after power though, brother. I mean, it's just hockey.
No, I've seen your broadcast on that, but no, but aliens.
Yes.
What we began this with, we find what was this? NASA will find alien life. We will find alien life in 10 to 20 years.
So how far do they expect us to be going to find that alien life? Do they think it's going to be on Mars? Is it on the moon? Where is this alien life that we're going to travel to see?
Oh, and remember,
they're going
this-
to come here.
Remember, see, this is the hook. This is the hook. How many people are looking at that? That's what I was going to bring this up for. How many people are going to look at that article, see what it says, and start telling people, like, John, they say we're going to find alien life in 10 to 20 years.
Awesome.
Little green men are coming. No? NASA scientist Stefan says, no, we're not talking about little green men. We're talking about little microbes. In the research community, you and I have talked about this. There are so many people that don't go too far beyond the veil. They don't go deep, but they are still sort of stuck in the ether of the esoteric, shall we say? How many people will look at this? How many people will look at this? But you know, this is the reason I bring this article up. But this tends to be the mentality we run with in this day and time. We are a headline culture. We are headline culture. It's all about headlines. It's all about, hey, Manzini, don't worry about that learned discourse. Liberty, fraternity, equality. Learned protocols of learned elders of Sion. Hey, they don't need to be smart. They just need those words, liberty, fraternity, equality. But they really won't know what they mean.
Yeah, those guys would be so happy with the social network Twitter. They would just love Twitter to death, I think.
Perhaps that is the basis.
Because that's what all Twitter is, right?
Yes,
Headlines
blurbs.
and an opinion. Yeah, blurbs.
Blurbs. And if you suddenly have an interesting blurb, then more people will retweet your blurb. And it's a blurb, and a blurb, and a blurb, and a blurb. I try, I really do, because I understand doing, especially in this day and time, doing the radio thing. I understand we need to be socially active on the internet, but it's so hard. It truly is. It's like I try, John. I have to get treatment for this. I know. Maybe there's a chip. Maybe there's some new chip I can use. But yeah, I think it's interesting all the speculation too. It's interesting the constant speculation. But see, to show you, as I was talking about, how they lead people back and forth. Now you do have this article that pops up. Where was this? This is one of the pilots that flew Obama around back during the election, the 2008 election, during the season. And he goes through I won't read it, man. It's not a long article, but it's kind of a boring read, to tell you the truth. But very informative.
Are you talking on the Daily News?
I'm not sure.
Pi-
Yes, I mean,
Pilots
maybe.
believe in UFOs?
That one's it. About the encounter that happened on April the 10th, 1989. And it says they saw this, there was like a fire orb, and there was a glowing disc, and there was this mist that was around, and suddenly it's gone. The mist was gone, blah, 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 so forth and so on. Like I said, I won't get into the details, but see, over and over these things are thrown out. Could this be, once again, is this government technology? I don't know about the fire orb thing, but...
Well, like I always maintain, it's more likely it's a terrestrial craft than it is a extraterrestrial craft. Being that, well, we experiment on a lot of stuff, and they have to test it somewhere, and it's a long way to the next habitable planet, by all accounts from our buddies at NASA.
Well, have you noticed, man, there's always when you get into this is one thing I notice about disinformation. There's always a tying thread. There's always some thread that's tied there. Well, what if that idea of aliens? It's the little green men. It's what Hollywood has beat into the heads of people. Especially, they really were able to knock it home with a grand slam with E.T.
Mm-hmm.
With E.T. And how they like to, like I say, using that dualistic programming of confusion, One day he's cool and he wants to phone home. The next day he's coming and he's destroying whole cities. Whole cities. And, then he gets sick and dies. It's he comes down. He wants to help, he gets sick and he's saved and he's everybody's buddy. He comes down, he destroys the earth, and he dies. What are we looking at here? I know I'm joking around, but there's constantly this back and forth. There's some movie out right now. It's called Home or something. It's one of these Disney or whatever the animated kids movies are in this day and time. And it's about supposedly these little friendly aliens. They come down, they're trying to mix in, they don't really know what to do, so forth and so on. I don't know exactly what it's about, but the programming constantly, the sci-fi shows that we can go watch, it's constantly there. Some guys are good, some guys are bad. Well, maybe that's true, but I would assume most of them would avoid this planet, just looking at it in a rational way, in a logical way. If you and I are driving down the road, let's say this, me, myself, and John LeBang, we're driving down the road and we see a community on the side of the road, and they're in utter chaos. We're thinking we're explorers. We're explorers. We're looking for new places to go and everything, and we see this one community and it's in chaos. They're fighting each other over ideas. They're fighting each other over resources. They're fighting each other over anything you can imagine, and they're letting little controllers at the top control it. It's like, nuh-uh, man, I'm not stopping.
Yeah, I'm gonna say,
I'm not doing.
Go to the next town. I don't have to go that bad.
Yeah, I'm not stopping, man. I'm not even going to use the restroom there. These people are out for you. They are out for you. Whatever they are doing to each other, they will do to us. Mm-hmm. They will do to us. I'm not I am not, like I said, you have to look at things with logic, and logic also dictates the fact that to say that we've never been visited by aliens is to say that you don't know, to say you know exactly what goes on in the woods. Actually, the minute and the second that the bear does poop in the woods. So there is a whole logic thing here. There is a whole logic thing that embraces this, that says, yes, this can be here, and it just doesn't make any sense. The old saying, awful big universe, just a universe, it just doesn't make any sense.
Right. I don't deny that there's possibly some planet out there that has life forms. There's no doubt that the universe is vast enough to secure something like that. But for them to come here, and to know the liars that have run the world and the deceivers, well, I don't know, man. I'll take the bet that those things are more likely something from this planet. That's all.
Now, it's interesting to see that, and I found this document in the back of Behold a Pale Horse. In some of the, it's where Bill has printed some of the documents and stuff he discovered in Behold a Pale Horse. Now, a lot of people have ran with this document in the wrong way. This was a law that was enacted in 1969, and then it was revoked in 1977. And then it was taken from the U.S. law code from 1991. It was finally erased. So there's the basic history of it. But it did exist. It truly did exist. It is U.S. Code 1211.100, extraterrestrial exposure. And it goes through. It says, this part establishes a NASA policy, responsibility, and authority to guard the Earth against any harmful contamination or adverse changes in its environment resulting from personnel, spacecraft, and other property returning to the Earth after the landing on or coming within atmospheric envelope of a celestial body. B, it covers the security requirements, restrictions, and safeguards that are necessary in the interest of national security. Now, you can see on a base level, this could be about, what'd you pick up in the soil on that fake moon landing, so forth and so on. We got to find out what's in that New Mexico soil. But it says the provisions of this part apply to all NASA manned and unmanned space missions which land on or come within the atmospheric envelope of a celestial body and then return to Earth. NASA and administrator gives you definitions. It says respectively, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration and Administrator of National Aeronautics, blah, 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 blah. Definitions: extraterrestrially exposed means a state or condition of any person, property, animal, or other form of life or matter, whatever, who has one, touched directly or come within the atmospheric envelope of another celestial body; two, touched directly or been close proximity to or been exposed indirectly to any person, property, animal that's been in that area. It said, for example, if a person or thing touches the surface of the moon, he has to be quarantined. As I said, really basic things, but it goes on. It goes on. You get into, it starts talking about, okay, the idea of quarantine. To determine the particular person, property, animal, or other form of life or matter which is extraterrestrially exposed. And, what can happen? Whatever is extraterrestrially exposed, they have to examine that and treat it. Determine within the United States or within vessels or vehicles or of the United States the place, boundaries, and rules of operation necessary for quarantine stations. I'm trying to get into more. It's really just a basic, it gives you a blanket thing. It really gives you just a blanket thing, but it was meant. You see, they allow the idea of security for protecting national security. So you have to speculate on it. I was looking into some of these documents out there that the conspiracy community has been allowed to run with. And how, looking into them, now it could mean, hey, you come in contact with the big green blob, and it comes back with you, something might happen. But it's very vague. It's very vague, and we can read things into it. And so many people still say, this is around in this day and time. This is around. Another thing that perpetuated it, and I forgot what it was called, but it was a fictitious order that was brought up during an X-Files episode. It was a fictitious order that was brought up during an X-Files episode that says if any alien lands, it has to be killed immediately. It was a UN mandate. This was never a UN mandate, but so many people in the conspiracy theory community ran with this.
Right.
I'm doing speculation here. Could it possibly be that we keep throwing all this stuff? Well, we don't, but they keep throwing all this stuff out there to veer us off of actually what happened, what was going on, like perhaps drone tests. We see the drones they say they have now. What do they have? You've heard of Art Bell, you've heard of Art Bell talking about the big triangular thing. We know their technology is anywhere from 50 to 100, perhaps more, ahead of modern day technology. So you hear Art Bell talk about the big triangle. This could have been a monstrous drone. This could have been nothing more than a monstrous drone, and who knows what kind of propulsion technology they have.
Could have been another form of a stealth bomber type thing, because being that triangle, if you look at a stealth bomber, they have that, that triangle to them, and they love triangles, by the way.
Indeed they do. So Cooper's book has a lot of, it's Behold a Pale Horse. Most have heard of it. It's got a lot of interesting documents, inquiries, freedom of information type things that were made within there. But this is a basic document, and it was, like I said, it was instituted in '69. It was repealed in '77, taken from the U.S. Code in '91. Taken from the U.S. Code in '91.
Took a long time to get it out of the code, didn't it?
Yeah, '91 was about the time that all those executive orders that came into be that under JFK, and a little bit before JFK, but JFK, that were augmented under Nixon, that were augmented under Carter, that were eventually given to FEMA in 1991 under George Bush. So where did these powers go? Could they have shifted? Because the powers given to FEMA by Bush in '91, my Bush, Daddy Bush, my Lord, man.
You mean the other way around? Bush gave FEMA powers.
Oh yes, excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me, thank you.
He gave them all kinds of powers. In fact, if I'm not mistaken,
I mean, it includes control of everything, and these are executive orders that were snowballed over and over again, but most of them came up during the Kennedy administration.
And all they need to go in effect, all FEMA needs to go in effect is the president declaring a national emergency. That's all they need to just go ahead and...
They always augment. They always augment things, man. Throw a little Patriot Act, A few little stipulations in the NDAA. How about Jade Helm? Hey, it's all there for you, man. It's all there. But I like I said, I just wanted to look at some of the confusion. I know with because really it's a confusion. It's a confusing subject. If you really get down to it, it's truly a confusing subject. The whole idea of aliens. On a base level, on a logical level, you want to say, hey, why not? Why would it not happen? But also looking at it logically, you have to say, wait, there's too much sci-fi. There's too much Hollywood. You guys are just repeating the same things that old books were writing back in the late and early 1900s that were put into black and white TV shows, that were put into the minds of people. Hey, let's do a little Roswell. Oh my gosh, that crash. They know about our test crash. But I don't know any, like I said, once again, speculation. I don't know any of these things. I wasn't there in Roswell back then. I'm not the smoking man. So, I have no idea. But we can look at evidence. There is more evidence, actually, at a base approach that with the drones, with new military craft. All of these things, man. What was this? Little spider. I saw something about spider bots. Little spider bots they have now that can be controlled by direction with a wave of a hand. Alright guys, we'll be right back here in a few minutes on Waking Up the Masses here on TruthFrequencyRadio.com. Hang in there.
Chris and Sheree Geo here, founders of Truth Frequency Radio. We just wanted to take a moment to thank all of you for making TFR the biggest and the best independent radio station out there.
When we first entered the alternative media scene in 2009, we were really taken aback by the amount of infighting, backbiting, fear-based reporting, and ego-driven personalities. That's when we knew we had to set ourselves apart and set a new standard in broadcasting. And thus, TFR was conceived as a listener-supported station with no corporate or outside influence and limited commercial interruptions.
You can support our efforts by signing up for a VIP membership at truthfrequencyradio.com/signup or by making a donation at truthfrequencyradio.com/donate.
For less than $4 a month, you can ensure TFR continues broadcasting for years to come. Real people, real radio.
Wherever you are, make it TFR.
Big business has discovered the preparedness market, and that makes it difficult to know where to go and who to trust. MyPatriotSupply.com is owned and operated by patriots just like you, has the best prices on storable food, non-GMO seeds, water filtration devices, home canning equipment, survival and self-reliance books, and more. MyPatriotSupply.com has old-fashioned values and the absolute best customer service in the industry. Look for the deal of the day, unique, affordable survival supplies that fit anyone's budget. Get same-day shipping on all orders and free shipping on orders over $49. Call 866-229-0927, 866-229-0927, or visit MyPatriotSupply.com for emergency preparedness, self-reliance, and food independence. Shop with a name you know and a name you can trust. Before it's time to survive, it's time to prepare. MyPatriotSupply.com.
Did you know there are 3 million edible food plants on Earth, and none have the nutritional value of the hemp plant? HempUSA.org offers you hemp protein powder. It does not contain chemicals or THC, is non-GMO, and is 100% gluten-free. Hemp protein powder burns fat, builds muscle, contains 53% protein, and feeds the body the nutrients it needs. Call 888-910-4367 and see what our powder, seeds, and oil can do for you. Only at HempUSA.org. Wouldn't it be nice to have one product that replaces more than 10, saving you space, time, and money? HempUSA.org has a complete full-spectrum vitamin mineral detox formulation called Micro Plant Powder Gold. Micro Plant Powder Gold contains 101 vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and iodine. Has a 100-year shelf life and is a perfect addition to any storage shelter. Make Micro Plant Powder Gold your choice. Call 888-910-4367 or visit HempUSA.org today.
This is London calling on.
The Chris Everard Show, Sundays on Truth Frequency Radio.
And welcome back to Waking Up the Masses right here on Truth Frequency Radio. I'm just so disturbed, man. Mr. LeBang, I'm still disturbed.
Welcome, Earthlings.
Yeah, I'm just disturbed. This whole world's just upside down. No, welcome back, guys. Welcome back. Robots for Humans, addressing the engineering challenge. We have to address this engineering. Over and over. I don't really want to beat the drum about all the transhumanist stuff, but over and over, man. Over and over, we can look and we can see people just don't want to be themselves anymore. They don't want to use their own brain. They want to allow mainstream media, pop culture, all these things to think for them. Politicians, politics. See, you have to be this side or that side. You can't have some unique political idea. You can't have some unique political idea. You have to be this side, or you just don't, Either you're a pink elephant or a blue elephant, and if you're not a pink elephant or a blue elephant, you're a red elephant. You're just nothing. You really are. You're crazy. You're a kook. You're way out there. I can't tell you how many people look at me like I'm nuts when I go, I don't care if gay people get married. And they're like, what? And I go, yeah, why are you asking for permission? Why are you asking for permission? And they don't understand.
Right, they don't.
They don't understand. It's like you're asking for permission. You're saying, hey, king, will the king please bless my wedding? That's what you're saying. That's exactly what you're saying. You're saying the same thing that stupid slave white people, not white people, stupid slave straight people have been forever. You're saying that exactly. You're saying, hey, can I please have, can you give me something? Can you give me permission to do this? See, I don't, as much as I think it's insane, and the people that do it are insane, I don't even, the people that want to get sex changes. They should have a right to do it if they want to.
Sure.
They really should have a right to do it, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah. They say, well, how can you say you're about freedom and liberty? It's like, I just said I was about freedom and liberty. Mm-hmm. These people should have the freedom to do whatever the hell they want to.
I might think they're crazy, but they have the right to do
I
it.
do things people think is crazy. I get into subjects people think are insane. Mm-hmm. But we can see this. Look at England. Look at France. You'll see more and more. We need to go after those conspiracy theorists because they cause trouble. They cause trouble. They're right there with the terrorists, man.
Well, any view that opposes either side of the dialectic is a problem, not only for the establishment, but when you talk to somebody. See, this happens to me, and I know it's probably happened to you. You'll bring up something to somebody, or you'll get involved with something, a conversation, and somebody will go, oh, you're just a Republican. No, not really. I'm not a Republican. Just because I think like that makes me a Republican? Well, I didn't know that. Or it'll go the other way. I've been called the liberal a dozen times by so-called Republicans because I just happen to be on a different side of the issue than them. And it's like, well, is there anything else besides Republican and Democrat? Is there? I hope so, because we haven't figured out those.
Not in the sheeplized mind of the American people. Not at all. Nothing. It's just words, John. Liberté, fraternité, égalité. That's all it's about. We don't need any learned discourse. None at all. None at all. I was talking to someone the other day. I said something I talk about on here. I said, yeah, Hitler was a British project. Even more than that, I guess you would call him more of a bloodline. He wasn't a bloodline, but a bloodline type project. You can see some of this guy's, some of his influences. There was a guy named Edward George Buehler-Lytton. Buehler-Lytton Sr. This guy, he wasn't the first by any means, but he was what you call a race patriot. You had a lot of race patriots that popped up. They believed in that whole divine right to rule of the Anglo, especially the British one. Especially the British one, they believed in their divine right to rule. He wrote such things as, what was it? The Vril, the power of the coming race. And it talked about this whole, and this was written in 1871. I'll give you some of his connections here in a second, some of these things I've talked about here on the show, but 1871 he wrote this. It was this idea about this Superman race, these white Aryans, that they they come forth, they take over the world. They come forth and they take over the world. Very well known Rosicrucian. He was a member of the Societas Rosicruciana Anglia, which Mackey's Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, if anybody wants to look it up, right there, it's documented. He was a member of this group, but also there were members of this group. Remember, he wrote this in 1871. I've talked to you about the Quattuor Coronati Lodge. Also, that were members of that same lodge that he was a member of were 33rd degree William W. Westcott, one of the main members of the Quattuor Coronati Lodge, John Yarker, McGregor Mathers, A.E. White, all also big members of the Quattuor Coronati Lodge. Elias Levy, who has basically put that modern-day image of the Baphomet, the horned goat Baphomet with, the hermaphroditic Baphomet. That one, the evil-looking Baphomet. I guess they're all evil-looking Baphomets, but that one. He is the one that did that drawing that we see used as the Baphomet in this day and time. He was a member there. He was now the original not the original, but the Baphomet of the Templars guys. I guess it looked more like more like Bruce Jenner. Just look up Templar Baphomet. Look up Templar Baphomet. Look up in images, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So, where did this guy, his ideas, they're hanging out. The Quattuor Coronati had, they backed all these lodges that were popping up. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, the Thule Society, and a lot of the ideas that were embraced, and the OTO, a lot of the ideas that were embraced within these societies can go back to that 1971 novel, Vril, The Power of the Coming Race, who also got and Blavatsky, she talked about Mr. Bueller-Lighten a lot in one of her books. I think it was one of her secret doctrines. I can't remember. It's volume 1 or volume 2. But so Hitler knew about this guy. He embraced his work, man. He embraced his work. You can see the grooming, and that's not the subject of today's show by any means, but you can see the grooming of Hitler throughout his lifetime. How he came in, just things he did, and how he came in contact with a lot of these guys. And remember also another individual I forgot to mention, Crowley. Crowley's right there. Aleister Crowley, he's right there involved. Crowley was, I tend to wonder about the guy, because everything you read, he tends to be more mystical and all this stuff, but I tend to wonder if this could be the biggest exoteric scam of all time, because this guy talked about summoning demons and all this stuff, but if he was as high up initiate as is claimed, would he not be professing more of a Luciferian doctrine? No, you don't need these demons and everything that you summon. You need, just yourself. You possess these things. They're energies, so forth and so on. They're not real deities like Pike was talking about. Or we're just looking at a different strain. I'm in doing my research, these are the things I question sometimes, the things that we can't figure out, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have all their own little tales or whatnot for their beliefs, and we can't get two people in a room and have the same beliefs religiously. Can you imagine these guys? That's why they've split through time, I'm sure, is because something's come up. Oh, well, I believe a different way than you.
Yeah.
I'll start my own little sect.
Indeed. Even relating to the assassins, the Eastern Ishmaelis. These guys split with certain doctrines that were being practiced by the original Ishmaelis. You always find that split. You always find sometimes, in the case of the Templars and the Bloodlines, they're supposed to be protectors. Supposedly. Supposed to be protectors, and, you quit doing your job. Next thing you know, we got a bunch of... It's high school. This is my opinion, John. I believe that throughout history, basically what we've had is our... whatever controlling force that is behind the veil, allowing those that consider themselves all important, very, very smart, but on the big scale of things, they're really not, but they make good puppets. They make good fodder. Definitely. They allow them to do what they want. They allow them to do what they want when
Within reason. If you go too far out of bounds, we'll get rid of you.
right. But basically, yes, within reason, they're allowed to do what they want. This is why we see, from Obama to Bush, from Bush to Clinton, it's the same crap. If anything, all the things they do have escalated. If anything, all the things they do have actually escalated and gone faster. Nothing new.
I've seen a turn in Obama. I've seen something. He's used all the Bush stuff, but I've seen like the agenda get shifted a little bit. Maybe it was just time for that shift.
Yes, but it's still it shifts, but is it not still in the same direction basically?
Sure.
Well,
Right.
It's just progressively gotten faster. Just progressively gotten faster and built up more and more. But hey, man, such is like I said, start off. So it's like, it's the insanity that we live in. This is the insanity that we live in. And what does it take? What's it going to take, and how much more propaganda are people going to have to look at? So the White House, you guys have what? I'm sure you have excellent computer security, this type of stuff, but you get hacked by the Kremlin. See, this is are we living in the day of? Is this like the propaganda of the Maoist regime, the propaganda of Nazi Germany? Is that what's going on here?
It
This
seems to be a repeat of. I mean, the technology is more advanced, but it looks like how World War II is built up. That's how I see it. Just the little spyings and the little problems going here and there, and I almost knocked over my coffee, and that would have been a bummer. But that's what I see. It's the same little like chessboard pieces being moved around right now, and I don't know how far we are from a major event, but I don't think it's that far off, to be honest with you, my friend.
I agree completely. We're at a precipice, man, where it almost seems like you just keep waiting for that other shoe to drop. You keep waiting for that other. It's like, okay, it's going to happen, but see, maybe that's it.
Yeah, they're holding us in suspense.
There you go. The suspense that Aristotle talked about of people in the mysteries while they were put in these outer chambers to wait to go into the inner sanctum. How they had to sit there and wait for hours at a time because it built up the suspense. Mm-hmm. It built up the nervous expectation inside them. And this is common. This is common throughout some of the ancient mysteries. You got somebody all wound up, psychologically down, up, nervous, afraid, ecstatic, so forth and so on. They've learned this. They've learned this over time. They use it on people every day. I was talking about the news. Hey, John, guess what? Blah, 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 blah. But you'll never believe what happened next.
Right.
I know what happened next. I did not click your link because you're using a dialectic to try to get me to click your link.
Right.
And how many people?
Really well
good meaning. Hey, the bad thing is good meaning people with some good information. Mm-hmm. They're using this. Don't use that. Don't use that. This is, you fall into the trap. You might as well just bow down and worship Mammon. Why not? This is what it takes to get people to click. I'll use the same thing. G, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Really, come on.
Maybe we should try that and see if we can get more clicks that way.
There's no no. We'll do it once. No, but this is it's the unoriginal thinking of man. We keep following the same patterns, expecting it to work the same way. There's no original thought there. We keep following these same patterns. It's like, yes, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way I've been taught, and that's why it's going to be like that. Now you throw in, like I said, the whole suspense, as we were saying. Gosh, man, they know exactly what they're doing. The media is, you can look at all its tentacles all over the place, but the media is probably, want to know where secret societies have set themselves up? They've learned over time. They've learned how to manipulate man. They've learned how to screw with his mind. They've learned how to make him do stuff and demoralize him like no other. Why would they not be in the media? Especially in this day and time, we're all connected like we are. Just, hey, pop up here, pop up there, pop up everywhere. Insanity, man. True insanity.
Screwing with our minds. That's the number one thing they're using right now. Just constant and relentless information that's either good or bad. We have to sift through it. Most people don't sift through it. They just get piled on with this information and take it.
Well, you and I were talking earlier today, and I was talking about like the ancient mysteries, the Persian mysteries, how, and in the Egyptian, how for extended periods of time, You'd be locked under like in a pit. You'd be locked like in a pit, in an underground vault or something. You were starved. You couldn't. There was no light that came to your eyes. These guys really had to go through initiation. And say eventually you were brought into the initiation area in some underground cave or something, where you were shown things, blah blah blah, even put through even more rigorous tests. But the building up to it, you were kept in the dark. You were literally the ancient Egyptian mysteries. During their second degree of 6 stages, 3 degrees of 6 stages, but during their second degree of 6 stages, they were basically underground in the pitch black dark. It was all about creating that Superman, because a lot of individuals did not survive these undertakings. They did not survive these undertakings, but they brought this out into the open. Whether, and me speculating, talking about this, they brought this out into the open now, where they keep us. They keep us in the dark, but they promise us light at the end. And I think that just ties in, even though it may be innocent, and someone started using it like that, that ties into that dialectic. Blah, 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 blah happened, but you'll never guess what happened next. Suspense,
right.
Keeping you there.
Yep. And that's probably what's going on right now, because anything could happen at any time. Though, I mean, when's the last time you heard Saudi Arabia firing missiles at countries and stuff? We always did their dirty work. But now, the whole world's like ready to blow up.
Indeed. That's, that's something I was going to get at. We have AP, mainstream hack media, they're pushing the fact that Iran's moving one of its military carriers, off Yemen.
Right.
So we don't even really need a Ferdinand, do we? We don't need that kind of stuff. All we need is, there's so many mutual defense pacts that all these little nations and big nations have set up over the years, such as Russia and Iran, such as Russia and Syria, Russia and China, and as well as quite a few other little countries. Mutual defense pacts. What's going to happen when someone starts attacking Iran? Russia's going to come to their side. They have a treaty. They have a treaty about what they do about these things. So Russia's going to come to their side. And this little chess game will be allowed to... That's what I say. This little chess game will be allowed to play out so that they can bring about some worldwide police force. So they can bring about some worldwide... They need a worldwide chaos. And they're working on it real well right now. I believe this country entering a World War III. This country entering a World War III scenario, and I'm not talking nuclear scenario. Just a simple World War III scenario, I believe, is enough to break down and cause chaos within this country. French Revolution times 10.
Yeah. I think what's going to happen is we don't usually... We get drawn into it. How's that sound? We get drawn into it. So what's going to happen is something big will happen, and it'll get the American people gung-ho about taking out whoever, which will probably be Iran or whoever. I don't know.
More and more fear for people to lap up that will not like to consume it. Talking about EMPs today. They're talking about EMPs, or showing like videos with effects of EMPs. So what does it take? Really, what does it take? Is it time? Is it time for them to really put up their master plan? Because they really want a police state. They need a police state, but they need it to be under the guise of saving us. And they need the multitude of people to actually say, "Oh, please save us." I think it's good to speculate on this. It's interesting to speculate on this, but the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Sion, also said to be the Lodge Notes of the Mizraim Lodge back from the 1800s, it said we must be in a position to respond to every act of opposition by war with the neighbors of that country which dares to oppose us. But if these neighbors should also venture to stand collectively together against us, then we must offer resistance by a universal war. The principal factor of success in the political is the secrecy of its undertakings. The work should not agree with the deeds of the diplomat, but we must compel the governments of the masses to take action in the direction favored by our widely conceived plan, approaching the desired consummation by what we shall represent as public opinion. secretly promoted by us through the means of the so-called power, the press, which, with a few exceptions, may be disregarded, is already entirely in our hands. In a word, to sum up our system of keeping the governments of the masses in Europe in check, we shall show our strength to one of them by terrorist attempts, and to all, if we allow the possibility of a general rising against us, we shall respond with the guns of America or China or Japan. Well, all right.
And what was that from again?
It's commonly known as, it was published under the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. Researchers, I think it's Holy Blood, Holy Grail. I think that's the name of it. There's a few books there I get mixed up. They go into it and do some research that kind of bona fides it was these are documents from the Priory of Sion. These are lodge notes from the Mizraim Lodge, Supreme Council of Mizraim Freemasonry. Yes, some of those Jews in name only are members and have been members, but a lot of, shall we say, contention there about, is it this, is it that? But once again, it's like the Iron Mountain Project. It's like the Iron Mountain Report. What it shows us is a perspective, a possible perspective, and then we just look at what's going on in our day and time. It's like, okay, coincidence maybe not.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's all coincidence. Come on. There's no giant plan out there to do anything. Come on. Everything happens by accident, Robert. And it just happens to tumble the next domino right where it needs to go.
That's it. You know, there was a, you know, they said we must use our great power, the media. The press. There was a journalist by the name of John Swinton. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but John Swinton in the 1920s it was sort of a press banquet they were having for New York City reporters and stuff. He said he talked about, you know, he basically said we're paid so that we don't publish certain things. And if we do, we will soon find ourselves on the street without work and nobody will hire us. And he ended it saying, we are intellectual prostitutes. All our work, all our time, blah, 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 is theirs. We are their slaves. That was in the 1920s, the early 1920s he talked about that.
Amazing.
Yeah, you can look up John Swinton and you'll find John Swinton press banquet 1920s and you'll find that quote.
There's a lot of really old quotes that if you look at and then you just judge at what's going on today, you're like, wow. Either they knew something was going to happen or they're behind something that's going to happen. I mean, the quotes are so accurate to what is going on today. It boggles the mind sometimes.
Yeah, that's why, you know, just examine things. Are we living in some sort of, and I'm not talking about some digital matrix or something where we're all asleep or anything, or are we just living in, are we asleep, man? Not, you know, the movie They Live, not literally like that, but are we just so much asleep where we don't, and it's the loss of original thought. Could that be original sin, the loss of original thought? We started letting the powers that be make decisions for us. But the loss of original thought, how do we examine things without original thought? And how do we even know? You know, it's like an appendix. Perhaps original thoughts become like an appendix. We don't need it, so we don't use it. Someone makes the decisions. The media shows us what we want. They form decisions and they point us in that direction. If you're not part of that, you're crazy.
You may be right.
Yeah, I think a lot of these things are very, a lot of the movies that are put out, they're, we might look at them in a sci-fi way, but to examine them, they're very symbolic. Very, very symbolic, because all those little things that in They Live, this guy was seeing. All the little signs and everything. That is what these things, I'm not saying we see those words and that kind of thing literally, but we adopt because of our desires. Don't we normally, instinctually adopt certain things? And if you tell me I desire something over and over and over and over again, gotta have it, $19.99, $5, come to this store, that store, this fast food, whatever. Eventually someone's going to do it, especially if you have tons of money to put into it. That just keeps recirculating. I don't have a problem with people making money. No problem at all with that, but just the whole concept that we get wrapped up in. When does a person have the ability to think for themselves. Original thought. I believe you.
Not much.
I believe in this day and time, man. You might even have to just get completely away from everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it might take a retreat into the wilderness for someone to start adapting that.
You know, and I attribute my songwriting to giving me the ability to think originally, because that's what a song is. And
Yes.
if I don't think if I had that ability to write songs that I'd be so able to accept some of these other things.
Hey, man, the original musician in this day and time, the true original musician in this day and time, he doesn't make any money. Some maybe very here, maybe there, but he doesn't make any money. That's why, as a musician myself, and I'm sure you can agree, and musicians out there, it's sort of, shall we say, disheartening.
It is.
Yes, very disheartening. Everything is a repeat, especially with your technology they have today and how it can be manipulated. Anybody can be a star in their 15 minutes of fame. We'll be right back, guys, here on Waking Up the Masses, right here on Truth Frequency Radio.
Chris and Cherie Geo here, founders of Truth Frequency Radio. We just wanted to take a moment to thank all of you for making TFR the biggest and the best independent radio station out there.
When we first entered the alternative media scene in 2009, we were really taken aback by the amount of infighting, backbiting, fear-based reporting, and ego-driven personalities. That's when we knew we had to set ourselves apart and set a new standard in broadcasting. And thus, TFR was conceived as a listener-supported station with no corporate or outside influence and limited commercial interruptions.
You can support our efforts by signing up for a VIP membership at truthfrequencyradio.com/signup or by making a donation at truthfrequencyradio.com/donate.
For less than $4 a month, you can ensure that TFR continues broadcasting for years to come. Real people, real radio.
Wherever you are, make it TFR. Did you know that the blue lotus flower was used by the ancient Egyptians as an aphrodisiac to experience feelings of euphoria and ecstasy? And ecstasy. And ecstasy. Did you know that Thai kratom was used by the Buddhist monks to produce a relaxing and dreamlike state? Did you know San Pedro cactus was used by the Native Americans to quest for visions and heal the body? Bouncing Bear Botanicals is your #1 supplier of rare and sacred plants and a proud sponsor of Truth Frequency Radio. By clicking on the banner at truthfrequencyradio.com, you can learn more about a vast selection of entheogens, including Amanita muscaria, also known as a sacred mushroom. So click on the banner at truthfrequencyradio.com, and you'll also get up to $40 off your next order.
Archaeology, astronomy, alchemy, secrets of the Holy Bible, hidden codes of the Quran, demonology, Tesla technology, solar power, extraterrestrials in the ancient world. More than 500 documentaries, an experimental film lab of cutting-edge music and art, full-length movies, conference reports, and weekly TV shows. The Enigma Channel is the world's first truly global TV station. www.enigmatv.com. Intelligent television for planet Earth.
Wherever you are.
Truth Frequency Radio. You're an enemy combatant of the United States of the New Globe. I will not read you your rights. You don't have any rights. You will be detained indefinitely. Say goodbye to life as you know it.
Welcome back to Waking Up the Masses. I am your sick host, still under the weather host, Robert Bruce, here with my good friend Mr.
Sick host.
Yes, sick. With my good friend Mr. LeBang. You know, John, speaking of the whole music thing, that there's an Illuminati lodge from the 1700s from Paris that I've talked about. They were the Constellation Aurora. The Constellation Aurora Lodge. Members include Antoine Mesmer, who was developing all kinds of ideas about how certain sounds affected people's responses. Had quite a following of people that were willing to submit to all kinds of weird sound experiments, and mesmerize, things that mesmerize them. This guy was the forerunner of what you would call hypnotism. Another individual there would be Joseph Balsamo, a.k.a. Cagliostro, the charlatan and trickster. These individuals. But I've talked before about Mozart. Mozart was, he sought out Antoine Mesmer. He sought out Antoine Mesmer because Mesmer brought, I know you've heard of this term before, animal magnetism. Do you realize that Antoine Mesmer was the one that coined that phrase?
Really?
Yes, animal magnetism. And that the idea of animal magnetism is that by using certain methods you could influence another individual. Therefore, animal magnetism, you could take another creature, being another human, and draw them to you by certain influences. He was fascinated with the individual. I talk about Mr. Cagliostro, Joseph, a.k.a. Joseph Balsamo, because Cagliostro had a amazing way with talking to people. He had the gift of gab, as we say in this day and time, and he was, like I said, he was quite the charlatan. But the Constellation Aurora Lodge, this was where a lot of musicians of the day and time joined this lodge. And like I said, especially Mozart, it's very interesting to look that this guy was composing revolutionary music of the day. Music that a lot of these revolutionaries during the French Revolution latched on to. It was meant, if you listen to them, man, think about the build-up and the crescendos in some of the pieces. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's
incredible music.
It was meant to, without all the glitter, without all the special effects and digital stuff that modern day music has. This was truly meant by sound and feeling to rile the masses. It was meant to get them up and get them going. Mackey's Encyclopedia even talks about Mozart. He confirms that, what was it, the magic flute? I believe it's the magic flute that Mozart did. He composed that. It was, what was the name of the lodge? The Perfect Union Lodge in Vienna. He composed the whole thing there, and his assistants were high-level Masons from there. There are, you can look online, it's hard to find them so much anymore, if I'm not mistaken, but it's called Masonic music, and a lot of it's Mozart. Beethoven's Ode to Joy was adopted. Some say Beethoven was, some say, and being a Mason's not a crime, let me just say that. But it was some of these Masons back there, they had some bad relations, and what kind of relations did they have? They had the same kind of relations that many of these individuals, like Weishaupt. Mesmer's father was Weishaupt's teacher in college. Isn't that interesting?
It is.
He was his teacher in college. Mesmer was in contact with Weishaupt. When you have what's called the Council of Wilhelmsbad, this is 1782, if I'm not mistaken. This is when all these Illuminists gathered to sort of decide, what direction are we going to take Freemasonry in, how are we going to subvert it, so forth and so on. Well, Mesmer's there, Cagliostro's there, Mirabeau's there. Hey, all these guys hanging out. How can we subvert the minds of men? So you see, with Mirabeau, he was a writer, even going back to Voltaire, how he influenced people with the media such as writing. Cagliostro, how he influenced people with trickery and so forth and so on. What's his name? Mesmer brought into the idea of hypnotism. So in that Constellation Aurora Lodge, this is where all these guys are gathered. Interesting story. I don't know if I talked about this yesterday, and this goes right along with music. there was a piece that talked about, I think I did, there's a piece that talks about that there's some scientist over, not a scientist, archaeologist, and he claims to have found the tomb of Jesus.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that it shows that Jesus married Mary Magdalene and they had children, Dan Brown had children and all that stuff. I find it very, very interesting, this popping up because let me see where.
You mean the timing?
What was that?
You mean the timing that it's popping up now?
Oh, yes, indeed. Indeed, the timing that it's popping up now. But,
okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
No. I
was on the same page as you.
Dang it, John, you're throwing me off beat. No.
I'm sorry, man. That's my job, right?
Everybody that does any kind of radio knows what I'm talking about. And you know. But yeah, you had this article. It brings up, they found him. He's in the tomb, blah, blah, blah. Well, they're saying that. I'm trying to find the article. There we go. Lost Tomb of Jesus. Scientist claims he's got this guy was. There's all these groups that come out to try to disprove this guy, and they say they have in the past. They've poo-pooed him. This ties. Now, I'm not saying here. This once again, I'm not saying that Jesus didn't not die on the cross. I believe pretty much the guy died on the cross. There's historians of the time that talk about him dying on the cross. There's Roman historians. It's very, very, some of them are quite insulting to him. They talk about this guy died. He definitely died on the cross. So where does this come from? A lot of people want to dispute it, like, oh, well, no. Look up Josephus. There's other ones that were within 100, 200 years of Jesus. And they talk about it. Roman history of the day talks about it. This guy died. This guy died. But, so what are we looking at here? What are we looking at here? We're looking at, once again, that idea of passing on this doctrine. That idea in this day and time, once again, passing on this doctrine, moving it forward with all the influence and chaos. But, so what it was bringing me to, remember, this is about music. That whole idea of a bloodline, which I don't believe in. There was, I'm sure some of these guys kiss their cousins and keep on thinking they're going to preserve their rule, their divine right to rule, so forth and so on. But the idea of a divine bloodline, no. I do not believe in that. I don't even get into the idea when they say the Jews are the chosen people. Yeah, they said that. The Muslims say that too, and the Christians say that too. It tends to be part of a religion that you're the chosen people. You know what I mean? It tends to be part of religion, but what does this get into? It gets into that whole bloodline thing. And the bloodline, once again, when they talk about a holy grail, when they talk about that divine right to rule, they're talking about what is that divine right, man? It's that fire. It's that intellect. Because they believe that they are elevated above us. They have the divine right to rule. But Jimi Hendrix, back to music with that big roundabout there. Jimi Hendrix. There's a story. Well, not a story. There's a song, but it is called a story. A song he has called The Story of Life. You guys can look it up. One of the lesser-known songs he did. Lesser-known works he did. But let me read you some lyrics from Jimi Hendrix. And what's he singing about here? It's called The Story of Life. It says, the story of Jesus, so easy to explain. After they crucified him, a woman, she claimed his name. The story of Jesus, the whole Bible knows. When all across the desert, and in the middle, he found a rose. There should be no questions, there should be no lies. He was married ever happily after. For all the tears we cry. Now, I find, a lot of people will see different stuff in this. I see just so many multi-level things. That whole rose. Rosicrucians in the middle. The rose in the middle.
Right.
The rose in the middle, representing the serpent, representing the intellect. What is it? There should be no question, there should be no lies. He was married ever, happily after. Now, a lot of people could say this is talking about the church. This is talking about the church, the marriage of Jesus and the church. But for all the tears we cry. Who got cried for, John? This came about with this previous Easter.
Right.
Tammuz.
Mm-hmm.
The Tammuz guy. And what was Tammuz? A continuation of the doctrine of Nimrod, of Cush. So, yes, there's a way. I know a lot of people say, that woman taking his name is is the church. But what is that rose that they found in the middle? That rose is always found in the middle of that cross. And who was that guy that crossed back and forth across the desert? There's also a story told about that, about Christian Rosenkreuz. Christian Rosenkreuz, another symbol, never existed, but also another symbol. So forth and so on, man. But it's interesting to look at it. There's even some crazy lyrics from, back in the 80s. You remember the 80s, don't you, John? I remember the 80s.
I do remember the 80s.
Yeah.
I love the 80s.
Yeah, let's see.
Long hair and spandex, man.
Just different little things here. Do you know that? Remember Graham Bond?
Who?
Graham Bond.
Not Graham Bonnet. Graham Bond.
Graham Bond. He said he was
I don't know
Aleister
that name.
Crowley's son. He formed he formed a band that was called Holy Magic, and it was spelled the way Crowley did it, the M-A-G-I-C-K. Completely dedicated to Aleister Crowley. Here's something we could go into in depth one day. It's very fascinating. There's an author, I can't find the book in front of me right now, so I can't remember the name of it. A good book. He examines the music industry. He was in the music industry in the 80s. But he is sort of so I won't mention the book. He is sort of kind of fanatical into the religious part about it's all this, it's all devil. But he's done a lot of good research. He's done a lot of good research into stuff, and he even shows how the whole initiation process of the Golden Dawn and the OTO, that this can be reflected in Stairway to Heaven. Stairway to Heaven, a lot of the initiation rite, what you read about, what they're saying, what goes on, can also be within the Stairway to Heaven song. So that was fascinating. I've talked about that, not on here on Truth Frequency Radio, but a long time ago I talked about that and got into it. Over and over, man. Really, over and over, we can see in different... What about Sgt. Pepper? The front of that album.
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band.
All the people that are on there, man. What's that all about? You got Karl Marx.
Oh, there's all kinds of crazy people.
Karl Marx, H.G. Wells, Aleister Crowley. There's even there's a big huge hookah pipe.
Well, they like to party, man. Come on, they used to hang out with Bob Dylan, man. What do you think? They're going to party all the time.
So have you heard the story about the first time they partook in cannabis, and it was at the behest of Bob Dylan?
Yes, that's what I had heard.
Yes, that's an interesting story. Just to I know we're getting into pop culture here, but it's an interesting story because you sort of saw who was the alpha and who was the omega in the group, because John Lennon insisted that Ringo do it first. They had never tried this. They had never tried this new thing, so they insisted that Ringo do it first. He doesn't have that much to burn up. Let him. You've heard the way he plays the drums. Let him do it first.
He has the second easiest, or
But
had
see-
the second easiest gig in music.
But see, are those the myths that they give us to pass down? Once again,
sure.
we have the old myths of Apollo and stuff like this. Are these the old myths? Oh yeah, here's the story of Bob Dylan. I'm just saying. Speculation. Is this what we're looking at? The guy that wrote that book, the name of the book is Heartbeat of the Dragon, The Occult Roots of Rock and Roll. It was written in 1992, and his name is Spalding. Mark Spalding.
The name's familiar.
Yeah, he said he was a drummer for a rock and roll band back in the 80s, I guess, in the 70s and 80s. But he connects things. It's interesting how he shows things. He connects things to a lot of these. He says through the late 1800s, many British-based occult organizations were formed. Of course, this comes with what I've talked about here with the formation of the Quatuor Coronati Research Lodge and all the little offshoots of sub-lodges that came from this. So he says through the 80s, many British-based occult organizations were formed. The Theosophical Society, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, the Order of the Silver Star, Freemasonry, and Rosicrucianism were but a few of the many esoteric societies that found their homes in England. The early 1960s witnessed England suddenly filled with people caught up in the same occult practices, and British rock and roll was about to follow the suit.
Interesting.
So, at the same time, come on, man. We know we've been around the I was in the 90s, I was actually in some of these. I didn't get into the ideas, but I was around some of these guys in bands. We know the whole it's cool to be evil and that kind of stuff. But we know people get involved in this and they think, oh, it's cool and everything. But to look at some of these guys, they got kind of deep into it. Why would you even, such as Led Zeppelin, why would you even want the house of Aleister Crowley? No one about this guy. I mean, just read his book. Just read the Book of the Law and see what they get into. The idea of human sacrifice. Yes, what do you say? Oh yeah, you can use an animal, but yes, a young virgin child is actually better. That's his idea. I've got the Book of the Law, Crowley's book. Yeah, I'll send it to you, man. I got the Book of the Law. I've got. It's they get into some messed up stuff.
Do I even want to read it?
No, really. I mean, you can, but it's like. They talk about this new, I think it's like this new golden child, and he's going to rule the world, and he gives people energy, but it needs blood sacrifice. It needs blood sacrifice, so forth and so on. I wonder what kind of sacrifice that was when he got his wife to have, his common law wife to have sex with a goat. I'm just saying.
Who did that now?
Crowley.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
I never heard that.
Yes,
that's a new revelation.
He was proud. He was quite proud of it.
Okay. Well, yeah, great. That's just yeah.
But a lot of this is just common knowledge, man. We can see the influence. And I'm not saying by any means I'm not one of these people that gets into all music is evil, rock and roll is evil. No. And I'm sure, of course, you will agree with me. No. Music is good, man. Music actually, anybody that is a musician or loves music knows about the energy that it produces and the sense of well-being that it brings about. And the sense of well-being that it brings about. Or if you are like me back in the 90s and got into like industrial Nine Inch Nails type metal bands, you can understand how it makes you angry. I mean, seriously, just being, the subject matter and the stuff and the kind of music, you can see how it gets you worked up. This is the premise of the mosh pit. Could you have a mosh pit with James Taylor? No, you can't have a mosh pit with James Taylor. No, not at all. But if you have the kind of music that gets people wound up, of course you can. They understand. What I'm getting at is they understand. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just Mesmer at this one time. Scientists for years in the 1600s. In the 1600s, there were scientists that were getting into this. Well, here's one, 1800s. There's a musician, composer by the name of Seidel, and he wrote some works on music and the evolution of it. And he said the first accurate measurements of physical effects of music were recorded in the 19th century by a German scientist by the name of Hermann von Helmholtz. In his work, Die Libre von den Ton, let me see if I can say this German word, Tonempfindungen. Tonempfindungen. There we go. I think I got it right. Published in 1863. He described the components of a musical tone and the physical basis of our perception of consonance and dissonance. Many others built upon his findings, discovering the pulse, blood pressure, breathing, muscle tone were measurably affected by the various music elements of rhythm, dissonance and consonance, and pitch and loudness. The shaman's always known this. He's known taking someone, even if they're under psychoactive plants or not, taking someone through the vision quest or whatever it was, the healing process. The drum starts slow, it gets real fast, how much of time, different slaps on the drum with different tones and different rhythms affect people differently. So,
right. No doubt about it.
So it's it truly is, man. It's no wonder that music is able, and like I said, the dumbed down music of today. But Seidel also in his book, he writes this, he says, in the 16th century, composer Giuseppe Zarlino experimented with what he called the four humors of the body and the four modes of music. Excuse me. Kircher demonstrated in the 1600s how musical tones could move each of these four humors, building upon what Zarlino had discovered. Kircher used several glasses, each filled with a different liquid, which corresponded to each of the four humors. As a moistened finger was rubbed around the rim of the glasses, producing a musical tone, each fluid was set in a different frequency of motion, which resulted in a humor being moved by a particular tone. In the 18th century, the 1700s, E.A. Nicolai described muscles, nerves, and arteries as fibers that were either dissonant or consonant, and he demonstrated that music would either alter the condition of those fibers. H.W. Albright, professor of anatomy at Göttingen, wrote that the fibers, muscles, when they were loose or tight, could be retuned by music.
Well, and different musics affect different people, so I think different sounds depending on your person type, for lack of better terms. That's why people gravitate to certain musics, and that's why there's such a diverse population of music.
Yes, indeed. The humors. They attract to the humors. Just to give people the full... This guy, he's a pianist and a composer. His name was Leonard J. Seidel. And the name of the book is Face of Music. Face of Music. And he talks about Mesmer. He says, Mesmer, a close friend of Mozart, treated several patients with music played on the piano or a glass harmonica fashioned of rotating glass cylinders, which produced sounds and tones when rubbed by wet fingers. He related how a key or meter could cause spasms in the patient.
You mean like headbanging? That's kind of a spasm.
Ray Manzarek. You know Ray Manzarek. He talks about it, man.
Yeah.
He talks about it. He says, quote, I think, what's the name of the book? No one gets out of here alive. He talks about it. Keyboardist from the Doors. He says, when the Siberian shaman gets ready to go into his dance, and the villagers get together and shake rattles and blow whistles and play whatever instruments they have to send him off, there is a constant pounding, pounding, pounding. It was the same when we played in a concert. We knew the symptoms of the state so that we could try to approximate it. It was like Jim was the electric shaman and we were the electric shaman's band, pounding, pounding, pounding away with him. Sometimes he wouldn't feel like getting into the state, but it would take him over. I could send an electric shock through him with an organ. John could do it with the drum beats. You could see every once in a while a twitch. I could hit a chord and make him twitch, and he'd be off again. Sometimes he was just incredible, just amazing, and the audience felt it too. What's he saying there? They influenced this guy. It's like, oh, Jim's on a bunch of acid again. He can't perform. Here, get him going. He's doing a thing where he's staring down and he's afraid to look at people. But no, this is, and that's just Manzarek. We go back to these old composers I was talking about. And you can see Nesta Webster in her book, she says, Mesmer himself stirring the fluid in his bucket, around which his disciples wept, slept, fell into trances, or convulsions, raved, or prophesied. Freemasonry, eager to discover the secret of the magic bucket, hastened to enroll him in their order, and Mesmer was received into the primitive rite of Freemasonry in 1785, and not soon after into the Constellation Aurora Lodge, the Illuminized Lodge in Paris. So all these guys were involved. You got the music industry guys, you got the banker guys, your Rothschilds and these other guys, and you've got the media guys like Voltaire, Mirabeau, many others. Mm-hmm. They knew what they were doing, but we just have it. It's not any different in this day and time, guys. When you keep looking for the, what people call the Illuminati, don't look in a lodge. Honestly, I don't even think, don't look in a lodge. If you're looking for me in a lodge, I'm not going to hide there, man. How about that? If here's my house, people know I'm in my house. I do something wrong that people want to get me for, I'm not going to be in the house anymore. That's, I think it's just simple common sense. But we can look into the aspects of the lodge members that they co-opted, the aspects of society that they manipulated. Voltaire with literature, and many others that followed him with his little commune. Mesmer, Mozart, music, Cagliostro with his whole idea of trickery and mysticism and lies, New Age stuff of the time. Over and over and over, all these guys, man, you can see how they're connected, and they worked with different parts of the media. They had a head. Was it Weishaupt? We don't know. We don't know, but I think we have the same thing in this day and time. What they were trying to achieve, they never quit trying. Man?
They're just perfecting it.
Yes.
The more they try it, the better they get at it.
Yeah, they never quit trying. They don't have to. They don't have to wear an all-seeing eye on their shirt, or have like a little lapel pin that has an all-seeing eye, or work
And
out
you
of
only
a,
get that at a World Nuclear Summit.
yeah, or work out of a lodge. It was Pike and Manzini that were very that discussed the fact that they needed to make sure in those 32nd and below Masons, we're going to form this new organization. That's what they were getting into, called the Palladium. We're going to make sure these other guys are just focused on like maybe some false mystical stuff, or in Manzini's case in Italy, help him form the Socialist International, get them focused on politics, but only the approved 33rd and above could come in. There was a 33rd degree Freemason by the name of Paul Rosen. He put out, back in the 1800s, he basically revealed the secrets, what he said was the Luciferian doctrine. And looking into the different degrees, how Luciferians, how they had put this template over it in order to, show, hey, this is what you believe, this is what you believe, this is a different step. We'll be right back, guys, right here on Waking Up the Masses on TruthFrequencyRadio.com.
So, you want the news and information without the hate, the hype, the fear? Well, you've come to the right place. You can support Truth Frequency Radio by spreading the word on social networking sites like Facebook, Twitter, or your favorite forums. Want to take Truth Frequency Radio on the road? Listen on your iPhone, BlackBerry, or other mobile devices. Want more than just the free stuff? Sign up for a VIP membership for as little as $4 a month and get super high-quality downloads, member-only content, and instant access to your favorite shows without the wait. It's only through your loving support that we're able to cover the cost and continue broadcasting. So now, stay tuned for more Free Speech Radio right here on the Truth Frequency Radio Network. KTFRN, worldwide.
After work, I'm so tired that I want to be left alone to sleep. Hey, listen to me. Who are you? I'm you years ago when you felt healthy and young and everything worked on your body. Do you remember that? Yes. I wish I felt like that now. You can feel like that again with a new microplant powder formulation called Iodine Now. It cleans the entire body from head to toe and feeds the body what it really needs. You'll be in a better mood and you'll find more drive in your romantic life. Really? I gotta try Iodine Now and feel good again. It also protects you from radiation, heavy metals, fluoride, chlorine, and bromine, including cancer and most major diseases. You'll be amazed. You can be your own doctor. I want to keep you out of the hospital and off pharmaceuticals. Wow, why are you so nice to me? Because I'm you. You're out of shape, and I need a better-looking future.
Call 888-910-4367. That's 888-910-4367. Iodine Now. Only at MUSA.org.
American gardeners and fellow patriots, make the right choice with your money, time, and your family food supply. Choose 100% pure heirloom seeds in the Survival Seed Vault from MyPatriotSupply.com. Why spend more? The Survival Seed Vault from MyPatriotSupply.com is only $37.95 and includes 20 varieties of pure, hardy, easy-to-grow heirloom seeds. Yes, only $37.95. That's 70% less than our competitors. You could buy 3 Survival Seed Vaults for less than one of theirs. The Survival Seed Vault from MyPatriotSupply.com includes detailed planting and seed-saving instructions and ships same day. Plus, all orders over $49 ship free. MyPatriotSupply.com is American-owned by patriots like you, passionate about freedom and preparedness. Call now, 866-229-0927. That's 866-229-0927. Or discover more emergency preparedness items when you order at MyPatriotSupply.com. Choose the original. Choose the Survival Seed Vault at MyPatriotSupply.com.
Like a cancer that's silently spread.
Agent for Truth with Joe Bannister. Sundays on Truth Frequency Radio.
And welcome back to Waking Up the Masses here on TruthFrequencyRadio.com. Don't forget, guys, coming up right after this, you have the Kev Baker Show. Then after him, you got Joe Joseph with Freedom Link. So make sure and tune into those shows. And welcome back, Mr. LeBang.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Having a great time today.
Yes, sir. Now, I read that little lyric there. I'll go back and read it again. It's short. The story of life. This is from Mr. Jimi Hendrix. The story of Jesus, so easy to explain after they crucified him. A woman, she claimed his name. The story of Jesus, the whole Bible knows. When all across the desert in the middle, he found a rose. Manly P. Hall. Manly P. Hall in Rosicrucian and Masonic origins. He said the mysteries of Egypt and Persia had found a haven in the middle of the Arabian desert and reached Europe by way of the Templar Knights. Then the Rosicrucians, the Temple of the Rose Cross at Damascus, had preserved the sweet philosophy of the rose. The Druses of Lebanon still retain and the Druses were also involved there. They were another offshoot of the Ishmaelis, pre-assassins. More mystical, more gnosis type guys. Still retain the mysticism of ancient Syria. And the dervishes, as they lean on their carved and crotcheted sticks, still meditate upon the secret instruction perpetuated from the days of the four caliphs. And so so they're in the middle of the desert. They found the rose there in the middle of the desert. These guys that perpetuate themselves as the doctrine, that show themselves as this false Jesus, these false saviors. So in the middle of the day, found a rose. I'm not saying that's what Jimi Hendrix was saying. Maybe he didn't know what he was saying. But then again, Hendrix was a very intelligent man. Mm-hmm. You could not be that talented and not be intelligent. It's just, I know, we know guitar players they can just go off, but they're not too smart.
No, they're flexible on their fingers.
Right, but he was different. He was, I'm just saying he was different. He was an intelligent man. So, obviously, he knew a little bit about what he was saying. I would say these books were, he seemed to be somebody that was probably into the esoteric. These books were available at the time. Mm-hmm. Hall's books were available at the time. There were plenty of the old Rosicrucian manuals. The old Rosicrucian manuals, such as the fundamental laws of the Rosicrucians from the early 1900s. They were available. Mm-hmm. I also find it interesting that in the middle of that desert they find a rose, their intellect, the intellect, their doctrine, on the back of our reverse seal. There it is in the middle of the desert, isn't it?
Yep.
Right there. That's the desert. That's not. That doesn't look like lush, this place or that place. That's definitely the desert.
Well, maybe that was like the blueprint for the Luxor in Las Vegas.
Maybe so.
On an unrelated Jimi Hendrix subject there, when I lived in Seattle and I was there for 4.5 years, the apartments I lived in was actually next door to the cemetery where Jimi Hendrix's grave was at. So I got to see his grave there, and you got to see a lot of wacky stuff go on at his
I'm sure.
little spot there.
Yes, how are people commemorating Jimmy? Oh Lord, don't want to see what's going on today, but
there were a lot of bongs. Let's just say that.
But see, that was now. Let's look at this. We're talking about the music industry. The music industry, from the research I'm showing, these guys were co-opted long before what we know as our modern day music. Why could he not have been co-opted? And did he not produce? Let's talk about those four humors things. Those four humors that this one composer was taught. What was his name? Here in Seidel's book, Zarlino. How music expressed different way went after the different humors. How many humors was Hendrix affecting with his supersonic guitar sounds? Think about that. See, there's how they've learned. This isn't something we know in this day and time, looking at digital graphs or anything like that. They knew back then. They understood. This one doctor, how he talked about that they affect that H.W. Albright. In the 1800s, he was talking about how they affected muscle fibers. 1700s, E.A. Nicolai talking about how muscle fibers, nerves, and arteries could be, with music, they can be conditioned in different ways. Kircher, after Zarlino, talking about how different the showing. He's the one that developed a little wine glass thing, showing how different sounds on different tops of wine glasses with the wet fingers could affect these four humors that Zarlino talked about in the 1600s. This has been an ongoing process. It's truly been an ongoing process, and I think you're a musician. I'm a musician. We've tried to put together original work. Let me ask you, John. Honestly, do you find it hard? If you were to truly sit down and not take and suck away all your influences for that work, is it hard? Are we not influenced? I'm not saying influence is bad in any means, but there's so much, I believe, of not our talent, but of our input that comes from influence of other things we've heard in society.
I'll admit that. Yeah, a lot of my music, you can relate it to other bands, I suppose, and you can
I don't.
hear
I wasn't
the flavors of what they've done.
Oh, I wasn't talking about your music. I'm just
But
talking.
in general, I see that though, so I'm relating it with how I do it, and I understand. It's you hear specific influences in what I do, and I would imagine that's the same for every single musician who writes music.
Right. Oh well, the first guy, the first native that was beating on the deer skin, if that was the case, that was going, just the basic 1 2 3 4, the 4/4 beat.
Right.
Somebody had to go. Wait. Boom, 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 boom. Look, we got half note. We got little bitty notes here. We can we make things go faster. We got half notes. We got quarter notes. We got all these things. We can change the rhythms. Somebody had to think of that, and that's what that was original thought. And we should always. I'm by no means say that we should just strip our brains of everything. Right. But there are those things that we do build on. I think that's the beauty. That should be the beauty of civilization, is that we see the mistakes and we see the accomplishments of the previous generation, and we move forward with those rather than worshiping or completely hating. See, it always has to be about an absolute. Got to completely hate the group or completely worship them. You can't sit there and learn. We can't have wisdom. We just have to have knowledge. Knowledge without knowledge, if it's not fermented, man, is just going to rot.
Well, I spoke about that on my show this past week, how Google, and I don't want to get into a totally different subject, but Google has made people think they are actually smarter than they are because they can pull that information up at their fingertips in a moment's notice. And, well, it kind of dovetails onto what you were saying there.
Yeah, for a while I've had all my auto searches turned off. I have all my auto searches turned off, so I don't do that. I found myself like spelling. I'm not relying on spelling for certain times. Seriously, there's some stuff I look up, looking into some of these ancient mystery schools, and you'll find spellings that are different. You'll find spellings that are different. Like I talk about one of the pre-Assassin and pre-Ishmaeli Gnostic groups called the Karmathites. Well, these could also be the Karundans. There's different translations according to Aramaic or Persian, so forth and so on. And so I would rely on it. I would look for it. I was fine. I was like, you know what? Quit. Just go after it. But yes, you're right. Spell check is nice, though. Remove from school this low spell check. It's nice. Sometimes. But yes, we do rely on these things. Long before I saw that article, I thought about, we're dumbed down by these things. We're getting a helping hand. Here, let me spell that for you. What would we have done if it was not for computers? We would have still retained the ability to not need spell check. Indeed. Wouldn't you think so? Or either you wouldn't be able to spell. You'd be the guy that couldn't spell, or you made sure you could keep spelling these things.
Hey, and some of the words out there are pretty hard to spell, man. Come on. You look up some of these older guys back in the day, and some of these like even old diseases or stuff, man, that's hard to spell, some of them. So you just kind of, that's why people use that sort of thing.
It's the new Tower of Babylon.
That's right.
It's the digital version. We'll let you know how it's spelled. We'll tell you.
Hey, breaking. Tom Cotton, a big Republican, says bombing Iran would take several days. They're starting to talk about bombing Iran.
Yeah, but what does this bring in? I talked about this earlier. What does this bring in? There are countries that have mutual defense pacts that want nothing more for us to go ahead and set this off, just like our country wants. Just like those behind the veil in our country want nothing more than to set this off to bring about this World War III. To bring about this World War III. I was talking to one of our good listeners up in Canada, William. I was talking to him on the internet, and I said, if this country, talking about this, the United States, if it ever tanks, what we call this corporation called the United States, if it tanks, if it goes down, if it goes into chaos, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's going to be hard times for everyone.
Right.
Because those that control things, those that people with money have supported and thought they were, these are the greatest people on both sides, right and left, in the middle, upside down. They are going to lash out. It's going to be a wounded animal. It's going to be a wounded animal. They are not going to give up. They are not going to give up their divine right to rule. Why do you think these freaks, Clinton, Hillary Clinton, why do you think that freak, Jeb Bush, why do you think these freaks? I mean, they might as well be part of the royal family. Look at them. What's that? Normal people don't look like that when they age. People are inbred. That's why they let you guys hang out. You inbred fools. But no, look at this. So is this what we're going to keep doing? Yes, it's about the king. It's about the queen. They are not going to give up their power. They dig in. Look, they know people think they're idiots, but they still run for office. Why? Because they realize the American people are going to eventually compromise. The one thing that has become the cowardly compromise. The cowardly compromise produces a flattery. It produces a flattery in the modern day man. It makes them think everything's okay. I won. My side won, or I tried my hardest, but what you did is compromise. The dialectic, it worked at its best.
There's no doubt about it, Robert. That's it. That's the way it is.
So,
and the American people continue to put these people in. They continue to get behind these people, and I will exclude the people who don't vote, and just say, hey, and it's actually the majority. Aren't we close to the majority not voting right now? Robert, it was really close.
I think only a little bit more than 100 million vote, man, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So
yeah, I mean we have 300 million plus in this country, so the majority doesn't vote.
So they talked everybody out of voting.
But we have to take it. I was going to say real quick, just as far as those numbers, we do have to take into the fact that a lot of that population are under the age of 18. So really, when you get down to it, it's like half and half, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I looked at the figures. I could be wrong, so don't quote me, but I believe it's about half and half. Why? I think a lot of it, people just don't care. They're not involved. They live their life every day. A lot of them haven't seen any change. They're not affected. Many of them are disheartened. Many of them are like me and you, and they understand this game is rigged, man. This game is rigged. Why do you want me to play this game? It's like, hey, you want to play? It's the shell game. Remember the shell game? You're never going to pick the right one. You're never going to pick the right one, but hey, we'll pay that money. Here, let me pay my money so I can pick it. The sucker that does this, the street charlatan, doing his little jugglery. We think this is going to work out. Yes, I'm going to see where the little ball's under the shell, and you don't get it. The shell game. That's all elections are, man. It's really the shell game. So many people think that they're going to win. It's the lottery. It's the lottery, but nobody wins.
You don't win any money at the
end. Yeah, nobody wins in this one.
Yeah.
There's no
tax you more.
There's no clearinghouse stuff or nothing like that. Nobody's showing up at your door with a big check. What they are showing up your door with was something big and bent over. That is what happens from one to the other. And someone can say, "Oh, but things got better." Maybe they got better for your group, but did it get better for the other side? No, that's the problem. And no matter how many Rand Pauls or even Ron Pauls they throw in front of us, it's not going to get better with electing someone that can be deified.
Right.
It's not going to get better with electing someone that's going to be deified. It has to work. The whole slogan, we got to start looking locally and working locally. Yes, you got to do this. It has to expand. That's what their plan has always been. Has it not been to start small and get big? Their plan? Look at the Rothschilds. Look at Weishaupt. Look at how their plan started off with just a couple of people. and eventually snowballed, and they took control. I'm not saying that we need to have the same, how would you say, aspirations as the Rothschilds or Adam Weishaupt, but we should embrace things locally and let them spread. We don't have to do it. We don't have to do it under the veil. We don't have to do it behind a lodge meeting or a secret society. People can really truly embrace their freedom and do this every day, but we don't, man. That's what really gets me. We so many, and I wouldn't even necessarily call it, we say, yeah, we got a lot of cowards in this country, but a lot of the times I think, man, it's the ostrich syndrome. They don't want to see it. They really don't want to see it. They don't want to embrace the fact that we do live under this kind of corrupt system, and they go on every day and, hey, but we're not ostrich. We're humans. So if we got our heads stuck in the sand, it only means one thing. We also are on our knees.
I was going to say something else is up in the air.
That's
you know
right.
What happens when that's pointed?
That's
up at
right. They're not even bringing the barrel in. They're not even bringing the barrel. They just say, "Hey, look, he's got his head in the sand. It's fair game." He doesn't even see us coming because they don't. Modern day man doesn't see the controllers coming. They embrace what the controllers do, and they loathe the bad things the controllers do, so they can have another controller. Charlie Brown, the football. Charlie Brown, the football. Coyote Roadrunner. Me marrying redheads. These things. It's just
me trying to be a rock star.
These things, man. It's the repetitive thing that you realize. Oh my gosh. We live in this, and that I think that goes back. With the whole music conversation and everything, we have we have quit embracing our original thought.
Right.
It's there, guys. It really is. It's there. I don't think, and unlike the appendix, if you make it start working again, I don't think it's going to have to be removed. I truly don't believe it's going to have to be removed. It will be something that you embrace and teach others. See, that's what I thought. That's what, in my opinion, Buddha's post a 7-year living in, he admitted, I've been living for 7 years in delusion. But after that, that's what basically Buddha was teaching, original thought. Mm-hmm. Original thought. And these things can be achieved if you look at his right action, right thought, so forth and so on, the whole attributes of what you might say his 8 humors that relate to different processes and thinking processes and morals of a human being. I think this is what this guy was teaching. Of course, things go sideways. They start deifying a guy. Makes it to Tibet. Bonpo says, "Hey, let's put all our neat little images on it and make it about Bonpo, but we'll still call it Buddhism." And then we'll have this little guy called the Dalai Lama, and we'll work all this reincarnation stuff in there. That Buddha actually said, "Hey, this is a bunch of crap. This isn't even real." He did, man. See, that's the thing. But did anybody listen? Did anybody listen? No. It evolved into a process of Buddhist thinking. When, if I say Buddhism, you think of reincarnation, don't you?
Sure. Yeah.
Buddha taught that was it.
I actually think of a fat, jolly man, running around with his belly hanging out.
That was historically the Chinese interpretation that was based on an emperor of the time. I can't remember which one he was, but
We have a little Chinese restaurant, a shop over here, and that is, you walk into that place, and that's all you see is Buddha in that incarnation, all over the place.
Yeah, Buddha talked about reincarnation. He talked about these things. He said this is samsara. It's illusion. It's physical world illusion. Even that. Why are you getting involved in this? Buddha was like Spock logic. Post awakening, Buddha was basically like Spock logic. He had been practicing that ascetic stuff. He had been practicing that stuff that believed in the mortification of the body, which would bring about the regeneration and so forth and so on. He realized it's wrong. This doesn't work. But see, we have so many people that get involved in these things that still embrace this. The evangelical Christian community out there that embraces the fact that you can perpetuate and bring about the end of days and revelation times type things.
Right.
So,
and that's where they're headed. Even if Revelation.
Oh, they're good tools.
Yeah, they're using Revelation as a tool right now to manipulate people into whatever future they want to put on us.
Going back to the ancient assassins, John, Hassan Sabah, as far as the people that were around, you had two classes. You hear about the ones that, you had your self-sacrificers and your aspirants. The aspirants are the ones, when I've talked about the order of the assassins, the Eastern Ishmaelis, how they went through the degrees. They actually went through these different degrees. They weren't necessarily exposed to what you've heard of Hassan having this little paradise-like area that he would have men brought into. And they would think they were in paradise. Those were what you called self-sacrificers. They were convinced through illusion to give themselves up for a better cause. They were convinced through illusion to give themselves up for a better cause, to go to this paradise, to go to this, place where they could just revel in all kinds of pleasures and everything that he made them think they were in through a little deception and get them pretty messed up and so forth and so on. In our modern day time, we have plenty of aspirants. We have those that want to work their way up. They believe they want to control stuff. But we also have the self-sacrificers. And I'm not necessarily meaning someone that wants to blow themselves up. They don't want to.
We have them too, though.
Yes, we do have them too. But not necessarily that. We have a new, with our little dings and whistles, this new technological society where the self-sacrificer does it every day. He sacrifices his intellect. He sacrifices the one thing that the mystery schools and the secret societies behind the mystery schools that eventually led to corruption. The one thing that they prize above any kind of Lucifer or Satan or anything like that. Intellect. The fire. The philosophers of fire. The philosophers of the intellect. Manly P. Hall said they to worship the divine fire. They worship the divine intellect. We've sacrificed our intellect and allowed them to become gods. I believe that's where that ties in. If we look at these, these men that want to become gods, the pharaohs, the ancient magi kings, magi priest kings, so forth and so on as they've passed through history up until today.
Presidents.
Yes, up until today. Those that make themselves seem. Look at the way this guy, this little pseudo-intellectual guy that we call, this puppet we call president, he always wants to be so smart. It's like, dude, you're not even making any sense. You're not even making any sense, but for some reason you've got a certain portion of the population thinking that you are smart. You are the smartest guy that was ever out there. Why? Because the media said so.
Mm-hmm.
No,
I love the acronyms for his name, though. BO and BS. They could not, could it not define the man any better? BO and BS.
Yes, he is. He's a very interesting character. But I don't believe he is. I don't believe we need so many people we want to focus our hate on these things. Like him, on this man, like Bush, like Clinton. And that's the purpose. That's the purpose. I know you'll remember this. We just have a few minutes left, so I know you'll remember this. Bill Cooper talking about the sacrificed king. And this was to relate with, what's his name, John F. Kennedy. Now, the sacrificed king, the whole idea in the ancient times that you got to be king for a day, you were king through a solar cycle. You were king for a year. You were king for a year. After that, you were ceremoniously sacrificed. King's dead, long live, as he said, quote unquote, king's dead, long live the king. And now you got a new guy. And he basically, within certain bounds, he can have all the women he wants, do this to these people, do this to that people, blah, blah, blah. Whatever you want to. But you never go past the lines that the priesthood has set. And you do exactly what they want in order for you to keep, for their objective to keep going forth. And for you to keep wanting to, you might be a little intellectual, you might be immoral, you might be violent. But either way, whatever your little vices are, whatever you want to do, you got some little crazy Marxist ideas that you want to perpetuate. You want to be a fascist. Maybe you think you're the new Mussolini. Whatever. We'll let you do it. As long as you don't go past. I think that's why we see upside down in this country. I think that's why we see upside down. Because we have let mentally ill children. We have allowed mentally ill children to be the individual in the White House. To be the individuals in the Congress and the Senate.
Yeah.
I know people I know a lot of people say, well, that's politics. They say, that's politics, but this is what we have set up. The reality is, if we look at it, this is what we have set up in this country. This is what we have set up, and it is by the processes that these entities DC and their entities and their controlling minions. It's those processes that have broken man down over centuries, over a couple of centuries, over many decades, and made him legally a slave, where he adopts the ideas. Yes, hey, give me that Social Security card. I want to work. I remember, John, let's get our Social Security card. We want to get a job.
Right.
We want to get a job. Gosh, we can't get a job without our Social Security card.
Not anymore.
If we don't get a job, we can't get the girl. We can't get the car.
Yeah, try to go to any place and go,
we can't get the new clothes.
Give you my Social Security.
We can't get the new clothes. We can't do all these things if we don't get the Social Security card. The amazing tricks they pull up on us, man.
And you're just a number then, too. You're no longer a person. You're just a number.
Indeed, man. But this is what it boils down to. Really it boils down to. It's multifaceted, the control mechanisms, and basically, the systems of control that they've implemented over time. And they just become better at it, guys. They become the experts. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, take care and make sure and tune into the Kev Baker Show coming up right after this.